Hey, we've got a problem here.
What did you do?
Nothing. I stirred the tanks.
Whoa. Hey.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. It's time for some comic industry news, or at least rumors. And I've heard this rumor for at least 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, that when it was originally announced that IDW would be losing their Star Wars, like kids all ages comic license and their Marvel all ages comics license, that there was another license that was even bigger. Well, I guess not bigger. The Star Wars one, as far as sales, is really important. But another license that encompassed a few franchises that were kind of staples for IDW and have been since 2005, and that would be the Hasbro license, that they were in danger and likely to lose that in the near future. I haven't been able to really talk about it because those are rumors, and you could speculate that it would be bad, and I think I maybe did that in one video. But it looks like, or at least it sounds like, at San Diego Comic-Con, this rumor is gaining traction. It sounds like, at least according to the water cooler talk that we're seeing, this was specifically out on Bleeding Cool. There will be links to the archives for those articles, that people are talking about IDW will in fact be losing Transformers and G.I. Joe in 2022. And obviously this is very bad news for IDW, not only on its own, but really in conjunction with losing the Star Wars and the Marvel's, kind of action licenses that they've already lost. I personally think that IDW's business model has been flawed. They really tried to go hard in the paint and decided they wanted to be an entertainment company rather than a comic book company. They borrowed a ton. They produced a lot of programming in-house. V-Wars. There's a couple other ones out there that they ended up going up on Netflix, but they didn't get heavily promoted. They did not do very well. We also had, I think, was it Winona Earp for Sci-Fi? That was a loss leader as well. Sounds like Lock and Key was a success as far as their entertainment division. We do know a second season's coming there, but they've had heavy losses and they've been in financial turmoil for a few years now, just as far as losses. They're very rarely turning a profit just as a company. IDW Media, IDW Entertainment is normally the biggest culprit. There have been a few quarters here and there where the publication, the publishing side, the side that would do the comic books and graphic novels, have done or have fared better, especially recently with was it that March graphic novel, and then there was the other one by George Takei about the camps that the Japanese were put in during World War II in America. Those did very, very well, and you can see why they would. Those are historical, autobiographical graphic novels, likely to do very well as far as sales into libraries and stuff like that. We don't see a lot of those projects in coming down the pike for IDW, but they do have a lot riding as far as their publishing line on their licensing division. They have not managed this as well, in my opinion, as a company like Dark Horse, who obviously recently did lose their Star Wars license, the main license, to Marvel Comics, and then eventually lost the Predator and Alien licenses as well. But they were pretty much able to withstand that. Sure, they lost a little bit of their market share, but they had other kind of big franchises or universes within their own publishing division to fall back on, namely Hellboy and the Black Hammer universes. But they also had they have a lot of other projects that are kind of creator-owned, in-house IP type of stuff. So while they were certainly leveraged with licensing, Star Wars was a big deal for them and it was a big loss. Alien and Predator were a big deal for Dark Horse and were a big loss. They were able to kind of roll with the punches and keep moving forward because they weren't so heavily leveraged on licensing that it ended up being an enormous impact. It didn't shut anything down. IDW is likely to be a very different case, and I'll show you the numbers here that will, obviously put a spotlight on that, and you can see why they're in danger. So they've been losing money for quite some time, And when you think about their licensed comic books, there have been some enormous successes. I'm told, I do not read My Little Pony, and there have been no rumors about IDW losing My Little Pony, but if they lose Transformers, they lose G.I. Joe, they're losing Hasbro, which includes My Little Pony, as well as I think maybe, does it include Dungeons and Dragons? I'm not really sure. It could potentially mean that one. I think Dungeons and Dragons already a boom anyway. So they already kind of lost the license that was included in Hasbro at one time. My bad. I just remembered all the details on that one. But these would be 3 key losses. And from what I hear, the My Little Pony comics are actually pretty good. I've even heard like the My Little Pony Transformers crossover was surprisingly good. But when you look at what they've done with Transformers and G.I. Joe specifically, over the past few years, have they done anything additive? Have they made a new character that popped? Have they created a new story that increased sales? Have they done anything to really benefit Hasbro? Because Hasbro, it's not like DC, publishing their comic books that they're marketing, but they're also potentially storylines that'll eventually be used, from Warner Brothers Studios, or Marvel Comics are producing, marketing, but it's also potentially storylines and characters that'll eventually end up in the MCU or streaming and whatnot. The G.I. Joe guys at Paramount ain't borrowing anything really from the comic books, and we certainly haven't seen that in the Transformers movies either. So when you look at what the license is and the value added to Hasbro, it is marketing, awareness of the characters and kind of showing how cool they are and potentially creating new characters, but seeing if they hit and transferring them over to the big screen and other mediums that Transformers and G.I. Joe have a much larger awareness for. They have not done a very good job. When you talk to people about the state of Transformers and IDW, they're sick to their stomachs. They can't believe that IDW even still has a license because it's been so poor. There are a lot of places where you can throw in, social messaging or, social commentary. Like non-binary robot seems like a weird thing to do, but they did it. They've also done really strange gender swaps with the G.I. Joe franchise that turned off a lot of the longtime G.I. Joe fans. And that's the one thing, the value that IDW gets in with a license like Transformer or G.I. Joe is there is a built-in fan base. The Joes are there for the comic books, and we've seen the numbers dwindling down. And we've certainly, I've heard a lot of the sales that are out there are actually from like Hasbro themselves. And they're using it as part of marketing. So if you end up buying these comic books and you see how poor they are, you can see why in the end they end up losing these licenses, likely in the next year. And it's going to be a massive blow. And IDW, I'm a fan of IDW. They've done some really good in-house stuff as far as like new IP that isn't associated with licenses. Kanto's going out right now. Before that, the Kill Lock was an amazing series. They have no budget to market, so are they going to market their shitty Transformers and G.I. Joe comics? Or are they going to market Kill Lock? Obviously, they marketed the ones that had a built-in audience and a larger chance for success. So that comic it wasn't read as much as it should have been. Or The Hyatt's House was a really cool kind of fantasy type comic book that nobody knows about. It should continue on. It was when that series ended, it was ended to continue, and we're never going to get that again because IDW's dropped the ball so much on some of the stuff that had the potential to really be impactful and lead the IDW into the future without licensed products, or at least much less licensed products as far as Hasbro, Star Wars, Marvel. Now let's get into the numbers. I'm going to bring up Comic-Con and we'll look at the numbers from September, and it will spotlight just how bleak things are looking for IDW Publishing. The good news for them is there is no word that they're losing the TMNT license. Obviously, TMNT The Last Ronin has been an enormous success. You cannot understate that. Selling 97,000 copies of a $9 comic book is enormous, especially on issue number 4. Every single issue on this has been a huge success. It's unfortunate that it seems to come out quarterly or or one issue every 5 months. It's crazy how delayed the production is. I know it's an oversized comic book, but they have 3 artists on it. But that thing has been an enormous success. But then you look there, Star Wars. There you got Star Trek, Star Wars, TMNT, Star Wars. There's Kanto, Star Wars, TMNT, Transformers, Sonic the Hedgehog. I've heard is okay. I tried to read the latest, The Imposter, Sonic, The Imposter, something like that. I did not like it, but people say this is good. Sonic is in there. They should keep that one. TMNT, Usagi Yojimbo, criminally underread. G.I. Joe, Godzilla, Transformers, Marvel Action, Transformers. And then we start getting, Bermuda, Marvel Action Spider-Man, Star Trek Year 5, and then it looks like we got some reprints coming on. Obviously, this TMNT The Last Ronin is a reprint of issue number 2, and this is from issue number 1. Those are probably those artist editions that came out. This is an enormous loss. Yes, they still have TMNT. They'll still have Star Trek. They'll still have Sonic and probably like the Godzilla stuff, but you were talking, they're getting gutted as far as their top selling comics. You know, Star Wars is a huge loss for them. Transformers and G.I. Joe should be steady, reliable sellers. They're way lower than they really should be just because of the way they've been handled by IDW. But if you look at this list, this is very bleak that in a relatively short amount of time, IDW is going to be losing Star Wars, Marvel Action, the Hasbro license, G.I. Joe, Transformers, My Little Pony. Where do they go from here? That's the big question. They hedged their bets far too heavily on licensed products. They did not produce enough new IP to kind of to be flagships for the company moving forward. They're going to have TMNT, and that Star Trek issue that was in there, that was the very first issue. That Mirror War is absolutely going to drop because it was the very first issue. And Star Trek isn't an enormous seller. It's nothing like Star Wars, or it shouldn't be anything like even Transformers. It's shocking that it's outperforming G.I. Joe, but that tells you the state of IDW's G.I. Joe and why Hasbro would want to move on. This does not look good for IDW moving forward. They are already having major losses. They should be going out there scouring the market for opportunities for new IP. Obviously, they did bring in Mark Doyle from DC Comics. Likely has some good connections as far as people that have worked on Batman in the past. He also was doing the Black Label stuff as well. And hopefully he's able to leverage the connections that he has to bring in something to IDW and prop them up and help them moving forward, because they are losing an enormous slate of their comic books that kind of prop them up as being the number 4 publisher for quite a long time within comic books. Obviously, they've been overtaken by Boom Studios. And when they lose these licenses, they're going to be overtaken permanently by Dark Horse. They were kind of going neck and neck for a while. IDW pulled forward, but obviously that's not going to be staying. That's not going to be the state of things moving forward. Once these licenses are lost, they should be going out there and looking for projects like March, like the George Takei project that were out there that were critically acclaimed and did very well in the graphic novel sales market, and see if they can try a new strategy. Obviously, licensing worked for a very long time, but there were just so many, especially recently, especially with that Hasbro license, there were so few wins. Yeah, Transformers Grimlock is better than expected and pretty good, but everything else associated with Transformers right now sucks. Who's talking about G.I. Joe comics right now in a good way? Nobody is. And you can see why they would end up losing a license like Hasbro, lose a license like Star Wars. When you have Dark Horse that's done Star Wars better in the past, why not go give them the license? They were better at Star Wars to begin with anyway. You know, why would Marvel continue to let their all ages Marvel Action line just die at IDW as they put on, just terrible creators, terrible art? So it's bad news for IDW. I hope they pull through. I'm not rooting for them to fail. I'm just acknowledging why it was almost destined to happen. They dropped the ball so hard on a lot of these licenses. They brought nothing value add other than paying the licensing fee. There are enough companies out there willing to pay that licensing fee that can bring value add, that can create new characters, that can bring some buzz and, create a comic book that they can be proud to put in with some promotional material and used as marketing for these characters and these franchises that are absolute money makers, whether it be on the big screen, cartoons, toys, backpacks, t-shirts. These are enormous brands. They should have been doing better all along. They have not dropped the ball as much on TMNT. Obviously, The Last Ronin is a huge success. I think, leading up to City at War, TMNT kind of just went to crap. Before that, that was one of the best indie comic books out there. And they had a lot of really good miniseries as well. The Shredder in Hell miniseries was awesome. A lot of the micro series were really good. But outside of The Last Ronin, there hasn't really been, in my opinion, a TMNT comic book worth reading, really, unless they're like reprints for the last 2 years, probably. Maybe a year and a half, something like that. So if they lost TMNT, that would be lights out. You know what I mean? Would there even be a publishing division? Sure, they've got some sleeper successes. Kanto is definitely pulling its weight as far as IDW publishing. And the fact that really Boer and Zucker are doing a lot of the marketing themselves. They're kind of doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Also, we do know that thing got picked up as part of an animation deal moving forward. We're likely to see that in other mediums. So they need to look for more successes like that. And if they want to do licensing in the future, they need to understand the core components of that license and be a value add to the company that they're licensing from. Otherwise, they're just not going to keep them. And it's unfortunate. IDW has had a lot of bad news. Their books have looked better as late due to some creative stuff that they've done with their debt. But the proof is in the pudding. And people are pulling out because they don't trust IDW anymore. And I don't blame them. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.